In this video, I'm going to show you how to use next page token from Google Map API in FlutterFlow. So this is really useful when you want to get Google Map data to your application in FlutterFlow. First of all, you have to go to Google Cloud API library. There is something called Place API. You just enable this API, which I have done it previously, so it says manage instead of enable, but if you haven't used it before, it should say enable. So once you have enabled it, when you go under credential, then you will see your Google Map API key appearing here. Sometimes it doesn't appear automatically itself, then you just have to click create credential API key. Then it will create API key manually. So you just copy this API key into your FlutterFlow project. So the next step is that on FlutterFlow, this tab here is called API calls. So you just click add, create API call, which I have done it here already. You can name this API call anything you like. Choose get here since you are trying to get, let's say, restaurant data from Google Map. And here, this API URL, no matter if it is Google Map or any other API that you will be using, it will always be a URL that you can find from their documentation. So let's say here, this is the documentation from Google Map, and usually they will have something like a link like this, and after the question mark, it will be some parameter you have to input so that it will give you responses according to these parameters. So you just paste the API URL here and then add JSON. So for header, you don't have to put anything there. For query parameters, you have to put the key which you created on Google Cloud here. You just copy it and then paste it here. Key is string type. And also there are some other parameter you can pass. For example, keyword, like I just want to get restaurant. I don't want to get all the places from Google Map. Then I will put the keyword restaurant here. The type is string. The type is really important because when the API read in your parameter, if the type is not correct, it will not be able to read what the parameter you have input. Radius is an integer type, and you just set a number here. I think the maximum number you can put is 50,000 in meters. So here I put 30,000 meters from this location. So when you put the location into the API, it's a bit weird that they are not using leg long type, which is a common latitude or longitude data type that people use. They use string instead. So if you go to Google Maps, you can just randomly right-click on a pond. Then you will see the leg long here. When you click copy and paste it here, remember to remove this space in between because it doesn't allow space in between when you pass the parameter. Okay, so I will use my original leg long. So once you are done with this, just save. Then you can test if your API is working. So there are some responses. So this one is working. So there is something really good to use here is this add JSON path. So there are a lot of information when you press test your responses. So you can pick some information that you will use, so you don't have to pick everything. So here I have done it previously, but I can delete it and try it again. So for example, you only want to get the name of the place. So in this response here, you can add it. Like here, this is the name. You can say add JSON path here, then it will jump up, and you should give it a name. Then later on, when you want to use this API in the pages here, then you can refer to this name. So this nearby API, it will only get maximum 20 results. It won't get everything that you can find on Google Maps. So when you click Test API, you will see there is a result here called next page token. So if you copy this next page token, which is an input parameter of another Google Place API, which is called next page token, and if you paste it in next page token, then you will see the next 20 results. And you can see that in this next page token, there's another next page token. So if you copy this, paste it, then you see another 20 results. This is the third page that you can get, and it's the maximum result that you can get from Google Maps in one query. So meaning that in one query, you can only get 60 results. So how to use this next page token? On Google Map documentation, you can see page token here, which explain what page token is. So you use the same API URL. You have to create another API call. You use the same URL here. And then the key is the same as before. You paste the API key that you got here. So all other parameters are not needed. You only need page token here. And when you use page token, because this page token, you get it from another API call. So it's not something that you can just enter manually here all the time. So it's more useful if you set it from variable and then create new variable, which will appear here. You can set the type as a string and leave this empty because it will be filled in by this API call later. So if you save this, and when you test the response, you can first call the first API, copy the token here, and then paste the token here just to test it. So you can see that there are different results here. So next step, you will go to the UI editor, create a new page to test it. So you can put a button here, put two other tests here, and I will name restaurant name 1 with string notable restaurant name 2. Yeah. So these two tests is just to reflect what you got from the API to show that the API response is successful. So I have created two variables here to store the result from the API. This one here, I will display the restaurant name I got from the first API. This one here, I will display the restaurant name for the second API, like the next page token API. So on this button, when you open action, add action, search for API call, and it will show you the API you already filled in previously. So the first one is the nearby search, which is Stockholm Google Map API. I will name this first Google result. And usually I don't need this conditional action, I will just delete it. The second API is next page token Google Map API, which we created previously. And this one, you have to pass the parameter, you have to pass the page token from the first one to the second one. So when you open this orange icon, you search for the name that you gave to the first API. Choose JSON body, predefine the path, and then next page token. So this is where I mention add JSON path in the API call tape, because once you added it to the JSON path, then you can find it from this predefined path, which is much easier to use. So when you click OK, I will name this as next Google result. We'll delete this conditional action, and then I will use the variable that I defined it, restaurant name 1 and restaurant name 2, to display the result. For restaurant name 1, it is the result from the first call, which I named it as first Google result. Select the body, predefine the path, and name. And since this is 20 results, so I only pick the first one in the list to show that the API is working. So you choose item at index, the first one in the list. For the second API, I will use restaurant name 2, set value, next Google result, which is what I named this API previously, JSON body, predefine the path, and then place name, item at index, the first one in the list of results. Okay, so you will expect that when you run this code, it will display the result here correctly. However, I have tried for many times. There is some latency from maybe Google Map or FlutterFlow. So this next page token cannot be passed immediately because FlutterFlow speed is too fast. So when this is loaded, and then this will be loaded immediately, while Google Map hasn't really produced the next page token yet. So it is much better to add a delay here. For example, 4,000 milliseconds of delay, so that Google Map has time to produce the next page token, and FlutterFlow will wait for some seconds and then take the token to display the next result. So let's see if this works. Okay, so now this is ready. I will try to click this. And you can see the restaurant name from the first API and the restaurant name from the next page token API. And when you test API call, it's always better to test run instead of test. It is much more accurate. So that's it for my video. Thank you very much for watching.